BBC News.
1 in every 11 patients in England is being prescribed medication which could be addictive or difficult to stop taking, according to new NHS data.
Public Health England is launching a year-long review into what it calls the growing problem of prescription drug addiction. Alexandra Mackenzie has more.
Routine prescription drugs. Most of us use them and suffer no ill effects. But for some powerful and commonly prescribed drugs, like codeine, morphine or tramadol, can lead to a crippling and potentially fatal addiction. The problem could start with a legitimate prescription or medication following an operation. A patient becomes dependent, and some drugs are then cheap and easily available. Prescriptions for addictive medicines have risen by 3% in 5 years. The use of antidepressants has more than doubled in the past decade. And 8.9%, or 1 in 11 of all patients, have been prescribed a potentially addictive drug. Dependence on prescription drugs, particularly opioids, has become a massive problem in the United States. This new review by Public Health England will last a year. Its aim is to establish just how serious an issue it is here and what needs to be done to prevent more lives being ruined by addiction. Alexandra Mackenzie, BBC News.
Health officials are launching a review into prescription drug addiction. Public Health England says it is becoming a growing problem. The use of antidepressants, which some patients can find hard to stop taking, has more than doubled in the past decade.
Well, Pete Birkinshaw from Public Health England is with us in the studio, and Tabitha Dow joins us from London. She's been dependent on antidepressants that were prescribed to her 4 years ago. Pete, we'll come to you in a moment, but Tabitha, I wonder if you could start by sort of telling us your story. Why were you prescribed them, and then what's been the journey since then?
So I was prescribed Venlafaxine, it's actually 2 years ago in 2014. I was prescribed it for chronic migraines and depression. It was suggested by a neurologist at the National Migraine Centre that it would help with my migraines and depression, and then my GP subsequently prescribed it for me.
And did it help, and how has it affected you?
So it didn't help with my depression and migraines. I was on it for under a year. So I went to my GP and said that I wanted to come off it because there was no point being on it anymore. When I tried to reduce it, I followed my GP's tapering guidelines to try and come off it. And experienced unbearable withdrawal symptoms. I was in bed for weeks, unable to cope with how I was feeling. I had intense crushing head pressure in my forehead, which I still have now, not to the same degree, but I still wake up with every morning 2 years later. Chronic fatigue, my mood plummeted to worse than it was before I took the antidepressant. I had a feeling of my brain feeling like it was moving from side to side, and then a chemical metally sort of shimmery sensation going through my forehead, and then an overwhelming feeling as if I was connected to an electrical current in my body. There was sort of these tremors going through my body, which I still wake up with every morning. And when I contacted a couple of GPs over the phone, because I couldn't go and see them because I was in bed at home, none of them could help me, and they couldn't advise me what to do.
Oh dear me. Well, Pete, how would a review help somebody like Tabitha and maybe others who are going through similar sort of experience?
So we know that the number of prescriptions is going up, and so we want to do a full review to really understand what are the causes, the harms, how we can prevent this happening, and understand what the best response is to support people like Tabitha to get the best help possible.
And one of the concerns is what an inability to be able to give these drugs up. Is that one of your main concerns?
I mean, some of these drugs are dependency forming, and with antidepressants, people experience a withdrawal syndrome. So clearly, that's one of the key focuses. And you know, we need to remember that for some people, these drugs are very helpful.
Of course. And
there is an evidence base for some of their use, and you know, we need to sort of maintain that. And I think one of the outcomes we may be looking at is kind of more purposeful prescribing, more review, just to make sure that situations that have been described don't happen.
Tabitha, do you know of many other people who are going through similar sort of problems and experiencing that you have been?
Yes, definitely. And I feel like when I'm here today, I'm not just speaking about my own story, I'm speaking on behalf of thousands of other people. And these are people that I haven't met any of them face to face, they're all online. in various Facebook support groups that I've joined. One of them is an American-based support group called Venlafaxine Withdrawal, and that has been a lifesaver for me. There are hundreds of people in there, not just in the UK but worldwide, who are struggling with dependence on venlafaxine, and they're not getting support from their GPs. There's another support group that I'm in, which is called Prescribed Harm UK, and that's not just for venlafaxine, it's for other antidepressants and benzodiazepines. And there are so many people in that group who are struggling to get help from their GPs and specialists, not just because of withdrawal from prescribed drugs, but also adverse reactions as well.
And there seem to be quite a few things you're looking at here, but one of the things we've talked about is the increase in these type of drugs being prescribed. And why have you at this point got an indication of why that is happening?
I don't think we have at this point. I don't want to preempt the review.
Right.
This is going to be quite a long process. We're going to take about a year having a really thorough look at this, and we're going to engage with, all relevant stakeholders, with academics and medics, and really have a thorough look at all the evidence from this country and internationally, and also have a look at how other countries have responded to this effectively as well.
And find out how many people are in the same position that Tabitha finds herself in.
That's a really key thing, is getting a much clearer and better handle on the prevalence of this problem. So we know the number of prescriptions is going up. What we don't know, we don't have a very clear handle on the number of problems or the people who are becoming dependent.
And how will you get that? Do you need people like Tabitha, for example, other people experiencing problems to tell you as well?
Well, we are going to. A lot of work has already been done collating service users' experience, and we'll be looking at all that work very, very closely.
Yeah.
But the primary research we're going to do is we're going to do a large analysis of all the existing prescribing data from all the GP prescribing across the country, and have a close look at that and look at the trend data as well.
Will you come back when you've done it?
Yep.
Thank you.
OK, I'm sure Tabitha will be very interested in that as well. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us on the programme this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tabitha. 3:15.